is the best destination? You've been a big advocate for one of these teams. What do you think is the best destination for Russell Wilson out of probably the Steelers, Browns, and Giants, who are the only supposed teams?
I'd say stay with the Steelers, right? That's best for him. I'm not sure it's best for the Steelers, but you get a second chance in the same system. I think that helps if you're in the same system for a couple of years. Mike Tomlin and Arthur Smith are still going to be there. So it's a stability, and it'll be a system that Russell knows well now. Arguably, they have a better offense all around with him than the Giants or the Browns, for sure. You look at his stats from last year, is 214 or 336 passing, 63, almost 64% completion percentage, 2,482 yards because he missed the first 6 games, 16 TDs, 5 interceptions. That's a pretty good ratio. 95.6 rating. In the postseason, he looked great in the one game in terms of his stats anyway. 20 of 29, 69%, 270 yards, 2 TDs, and no interceptions, 121.3 rating. But they lost the game, and he really wasn't. These stats look better than the way he looked playing, I thought. Only competition on the Steelers is Mason Rudolph, and they doesn't look like they have Skylar Thompson as well, and they don't look like they're going to be out there drafting one of the top tier quarterbacks. I don't think. Maybe, but I doubt it. They won't have they'll be gone before they get to the Steelers pick. So I'd say that that's his best choice. The Steelers they're going to have the best wide receiver core of the 3 teams. They just signed DK Metcalf. They have Pickens. They made the playoffs last year. That's more than you can say about the Browns and the Giants, who each only won 3 games. They have the best defense of the 3, I think. The Giants, they don't have much competition at quarterback. DeVito was on a 1-year minimum value deal. That they signed him to that. They have nobody else right now. They're going to draft a quarterback, I think, which could mean Wilson will wind up being a bridge quarterback if they start out slow and they lose a lot of games. Fans will be screaming for either Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward to get into the game. Their offensive line continues to be a huge question mark for the Giants. They really have only one star on offense. That's Malik Neighbors. Tyrone Tracy is a serviceable running back and looked pretty good last year, but is he a superstar? I don't think so. Defense likely won't be as good as the Pittsburghs, I don't think. Even though they have some big names up front there, they haven't really performed all that well. If he winds up being a bridge, how does he feel about being a mentor to either Ward or Sanders? I don't think he'd like that so well. The Browns, he left without a deal. He had a meeting with them. Watson deal has been a disaster. He's still owed $92 million, which is guaranteed, all of it, every penny. The Browns have gone 9-10 with him at quarterback starting. And he's probably lost for the 2025 season, as you say, after he re-injured his Achilles. They traded for a backup quarterback, Kenny Pickett. I think most people think of him as a backup rather than a starter, but he says, bring on anybody. I'm anxious to compete for the starting job. Wilson has experience playing in the division, so I can see why the Browns would look at him. I think there's a very good chance he winds up back with Pittsburgh because Metcalf's best years were with Russell Wilson. His best year was with Russell Wilson passing it to him. I think that makes the most sense. Even though I don't think they can get to the Super Bowl with Russell Wilson as a quarterback. Maybe with the upgrades on offense now and Metcalf there, they could get past. They could win a playoff game. That should be their immediate goal. They haven't won a playoff game in their last 6 tries, and that's a record of the NFL for losses in the first round. So they got to do something about that. Maybe Metcalf and a few other tweaks will get them at least beyond that, but I don't think they get to the Super Bowl with Russell Wilson.
I don't think that Russell Wilson's going to go to Pittsburgh. I don't think Pittsburgh wants Russ back because why haven't they made him an offer yet? If they wanted him back, why not make him an offer? I know they're focusing on Aaron Rodgers. They also focused on Justin Fields. They gave Justin Fields an offer, but he turned it down because it was $10 million less than what he got from the Jets. So I think that if they actually wanted Russ, they would at least give him an offer, maybe lowball him, see where he's at. But instead, you didn't even offer him anything reportedly. So I think they're done with Russ. And I think, honestly, they should be. Because in the last 5 games, including the wild card, his offense, the one that he led, averaged 14.2 points a game. His defense, that Pittsburgh Steelers defense, it always hits a wall because through however long, usually it's 3/4 of the season, maybe half a season, depending on how much they truly need to be dependent on. Well, it was about halfway through, a little bit beyond halfway through this past year. The last 5 games of the season, they gave up an average of 30.4 points per game. So their defense fell apart because their offense was averaging 14 points, getting off the field in rapid succession, and they were right back on the field like they were just basically playing drive after drive after drive with no offensive break in between. So I don't think Russell Wilson, honestly, should go back to the Steelers. I really don't think the Steelers even want him. I think that his only shot is truly the New York Giants or the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns have the number 2 overall pick, so they could draft either Shador or Cam, whichever quarterback the Titans, if they do draft one, whichever quarterback they don't take. The Giants are currently also with Rodgers and reportedly gave him an offer as well. So they're much more interested in Aaron Rodgers than they are Russ, and I think that the Giants are playing the same game the Steelers did with Russell Wilson. I think that the Giants gave Aaron Rodgers an offer and are just bringing Russ in to be like, Rodgers, hey, we might sign a quarterback and we may leave you in the dust. I think that very well could be in play here. And also, the Steelers just signed Mason Rudolph back to their roster. So they're looking for a true QB1. They're not looking for a guy to come in as a potential backup and do the same thing they did this prior year. So I think his only shot is probably the New York Giants. And reportedly, the Giants gave Aaron Rodgers more money than the Pittsburgh Steelers did. So depending on where Rodgers wants to go, what he values the most, the familiarity of New York, which he's been there the past 2 years, where he doesn't need to play in a different stadium, he doesn't even need to move, and you also get more money, that could be a very enticing option. Or you can go to Pittsburgh, have a better roster, maybe have better success long-term, but take less money and you have to move again. Whatever Rodgers wants to do, it's in his court right now, or maybe it's not, depending on what another team does, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later. But I don't think it really matters. I think Russ is cooked. I think Russ has been cooked. He put up a mediocre year on a decent team. He didn't put up gaudy numbers. He didn't put up numbers that make sure that he's a starter in the NFL. And all this Hall of Famer talk, I've been on this now for 3 years. Russell Wilson is not a Hall of Famer. Why would he be in the Hall of Fame?
He won a Super Bowl.
So? Trent Dilfer has a Super Bowl. Nick Foles has a Super Bowl. Joe Flacco has a Super Bowl.
10-time All-Pro.
He's not a 10-time All-Pro. That would make him, I think, have the most All-Pros by a quarterback in NFL history.
A 10-time Pro Bowler.
That doesn't matter anymore. Yeah. By the way, he has 0 All-Pros.
Yeah. Well, you asked me.
So he's not. By the way, All-Pro means an All-Pro first team or second team. He made All-Pro second team once in his career. So that means he was a top 2 quarterback once.
Yeah.
But he was never the best in his own conference.
Okay. Well, you asked me
he also has never had an MVP
what's the best destination for him? Well, for him, it would be Pittsburgh. That's where he'd prefer to be.
They don't want him.
Well, it's not over yet. Pittsburgh has. If the Giants sign Aaron Rodgers, then what's Pittsburgh going to do? Go with Mason Rudolph?
It would not surprise me if they stick with Mason Rudolph. Because he
actually played well with them when he got started. He won his game. He went
3-0.
Lost the playoff game.
Lost to the Bills in the playoff game, but what are you going to do?
Yeah.
At least you got them to the playoffs.
Yeah,
you helped them get
true.
to the playoffs. So, for me, I don't care where he goes, to be honest with you. Just to answer the question, his best one based on, let's break it down. Where a team doesn't hate you, that's the New York Giants or the Cleveland Browns. If you want to go back to just familiarity, even though the team might hate you, and they may be just saying, well, we have to sign you because there's no other option left for us, well, then you can go to the Pittsburgh Steelers. But if you're talking about a place to actually succeed, it's neither of these teams. It's none of them.
Yeah.
Because none of them are set up for current success. The Pittsburgh Steelers are on a rinse and repeat of having a winning record, losing in the wild card.
You don't think DK Metcalf makes a difference for them?
No.
Really?
They don't have a great offensive line. They got rid of their number 1 running back. Their defense will hit a wall.
I don't know. I think
they've done it. It's been a rinse and repeat thing since Big Ben left.
They've never. When's the last time they had a number 1 wide receiver? A really
define number 1.
Justin Jefferson type.
Well, that's
receiver.
Antonio Brown and then Juju Smith-Schuster for a year or two.
Okay, but Antonio Brown is a long time ago now.
If we're talking about just a solid number one,
look how good they were when they had Antonio Brown. They were very good.
Correct, but they also had an insane defense.
Yeah, well, they're going to try to strengthen their
and they
defense.
also had a competent quarterback, and also had I'm forgetting Le'Veon Bell before he decided to revolt against the team.
It'll be interesting to see what Aaron Rodgers.
Stable offensive line.
Aaron Rodgers has a bigger offer from the Giants than he would get from Pittsburgh. He'd be smarter to take less money and go to Pittsburgh. I think. I mean, he's going to be on his rear end a lot in New York because the Giants' offensive line, huge question mark, and is not going to be great for sure. I think he's got tons of money already. Why does he need more money? He wants wins, and he wants to, polish up his image and his career after the last few seasons here. So he'd be smarter to go. If he had the chance to go to Pittsburgh, he should go there.
I'm not sure because we have to realize that last year, right, because you're saying the Pittsburgh Steelers, they apparently, because the Giants would be on his butt too much. Well, guess what? The Pittsburgh Steelers did not have a good offensive line last year. They were ranked 26th in pass blocking. They gave up a bunch of pressures. They also gave up a bunch of hurries as well. So they were not a good offensive line last year.
It's good.
And
the Giants. What were the Giants ranked?
The Giants, they lost the number one piece of their offensive line.
Yeah, well.
They were a top offensive line within the first 6 weeks. Then week 7, when Andrew Thomas went down, they became the worst pass-blocking offensive line in the NFL.
There you go.
But Andrew Thomas is coming back.
Okay.
The Steelers had they had a couple pieces missing. I know some one of people, be pinpointing, oh, you're wrong about this 1 week in week 11. Some guy went down in the second quarter, the third minute, whatever. The Steelers' offensive line was relatively healthy the entire year, and they had a more mobile quarterback, and were just a slightly better offensive line. Now Rodgers is immobile, going to a bad offensive line. At least Russ could move a tiny bit. I don't love his movement, but he can move a tiny bit.
Yeah.
I think that regardless of what happens, Russell Wilson is not going to raise a team to be a deep playoff contending team. That he's definitely not a Super Bowl quarterback anymore. And for those people who are saying he's a Hall of Famer, he's not.
So you predict he'll be with the Browns then?
No, I mean, it's either Browns or Giants. Because
I don't think it's the Giants. Aaron Rodgers, I think, is the Giants.
Well, you just said he might go to the Steelers, and all reports are saying the Steelers.
I think
or now the Vikings.
They have to take less money.
So? Based on what you're saying,
he should do it. Right. If he could, he should do it. But I think it's probably going to be the Giants.
That'd be interesting. I already talked about it. I don't think Rodgers going to the Giants makes any sense.
Yeah.
Bad offensive line, one
where do you
true
think
weapon,
he should
poor
be,
running game.
Where
Russell
do you think
Wilson?
he should? No, Aaron Rodgers.
Well, we're going to talk about that later on in the show. I think it's going to be interesting because a brand new team is in the mix now. But for Russ, the Steelers gave up on him. He's think about this. The Broncos took an $86 million dead cap hit for him not to play with you. Not to play with you.
Yeah.
So they were willing to do that, and now the Steelers, after 1 year with Russ, are giving up on him.
Mm-hmm.
That's the third team to not want Russ anymore. The Seahawks shipped him out. The Broncos kicked him out. The Steelers are leaving him on the curb. So what does that say about Russ? Rodgers, even though we've heard a bunch of toxic moments and 90% retired and darkness retreats and all of this, he still is. He still is wanted. Daniel Jones is more wanted than Russ. He signed a deal with Indianapolis.
No, I think Russ would want more than $14 million 1 year.
Who's going to give it to him?
That's what he wants.
Justin Fields is more sought after than Russ, and he barely played.
Yeah. Well, he paid
Russ
6 games.
Note it. I said this. It's not a blip. This is a nice trend off a cliff. Nice trend. It went from being a very good quarterback, top 10-ish quarterback, fringe top 10 quarterback, to now being an average to very below average quarterback who really at times is more of a detriment to your team than a beneficial part of it. Russ is not good anymore. We got to give up this big spiel about Russ, coming back and being great. Because he'll have his moments. But when you need him, he'll come up small. Last 5 games, averaged 14 points on offense. Hi, everybody. Thank you for watching this clip of the Harvey Hour. If you want to watch the full show, you can by clicking the I in the top right-hand corner right now. If you want to take the show with you on the go, it is available wherever you get your podcast. We go live here on YouTube every single Tuesday and Friday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, so make sure you hit that like button, that subscribe button, and the notification bell to get notified whenever we upload a video and whenever we go live.